Welcome to our Mochi Podcast, the only podcast rated R for Robin. We are now entering episode 19, the Zine Podcast, issue 2. The zine, affectionately referred to as NoN, was conceived in its earliest form out of the Mochi Writing Club and sought to expand upon not the opposite of one, but the concept of non-one. It seeks to explore outside the conventional binary systems we're used to, good and evil, black and white, this or that, and consider the possibilities that exist outside the bounds of our everyday understanding of being or not being. Each issue features a number of works from a variety of fields, including short stories, videos, musical sets, art, poetry, and more. This second issue, Nonsense, features many contributors both old and new, and was published at the end of October of 2021. Initially beginning late in the summer of 2021, we began preparations for the second issue of Mochi's official zine. We eventually landed on the concept of Nonsense and put out a call to all members of Mochi for submissions for this latest issue. Today's podcast features three of those contributors, Laura C. Sinisterra, Neesh or Losing My Ego, and Simon Aksenfeld, as they discuss their pieces, their interpretations of nonsense, as well as other pieces within this issue that spoke to them on an individual level. All works featured here can be found at zine.mochi.club or on zora.co, where each piece was minted and listed as an NFT. Zine Podcast. Today I have Laura C. Sinisterra. You live in Brazil now. You're originally from Colombia. You joined Mochi as of batch 3, and this is your first contribution to the zine. You also did the web, helped a lot with like the web design stuff before publication. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, so for your piece, you did 72 words.
Yes.
All right, so can you kind of go into what was going on with this one? The topic is nonsense.
The topic was nonsense, yes. So I was thinking about this data thing, to work with constraints,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided to make a list of a number of words. At the beginning, I didn't know how many words I wanted to have. So I made a list of a bunch of words related to nonsense. And what I did next was to try to articulate them in a way that made sense. And the number 72, it comes from my favorite Ted Chiang story. The story is called 72 letters, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about the golem, and it's also related to Borges, Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentinian poet that did the first golem story. And in their poem, he has 72 verses. So it was like a take on this 72 idea of creation, of making something out of words. And that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. So how did you pick which words that you were gonna put into this?
That's kind of a bit of a dark twist because I was dealing with grief at the moment.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to choose words that were related to grief, to what I was feeling at the moment, to everything that was going on in my mind. So most of these words are about death and pain. I decided to bring it up a little bit with the color so it makes less sense. It's
Mm-hmm.
related, but not really. So that was another like twist on the nonsense aspect.
Yeah, so the colors it seems very bright, but also kind of like it's a pastel that's faded together with a couple other pastels. It's very like I don't know if like MC Escher is supposed to be the kind of like this stylistic, like throwing the paint at the thing, but it's very much kind of like washed into it. How where did you kind of like get these designs? Because you do mostly graphic design for work, right?
Yeah, I'm a designer. So these were just colors that I love, like yellow and orange. I love them,
Mm-hmm.
with the pairing of a more subtle background. And I love these blobs. So the blobs were like related to the words that were in them
Hmm.
in a way, in a very loose way, because it's not supposed to make so many sense. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's the idea behind the colors.
Did you? So how much of this was like a deliberate, like you reorganizing and placing the words into separate sections, versus like did you use some sort of program to randomize it, put them into
No, I
individual
did
blocks?
it. Yeah, with the help of one of the editors, I changed into some configuration that like each square made sense on their own, and then all of the squares like told a story.
Hmm.
So the one in the middle is like the central piece, like obviously,
Hmm.
and the central piece also in terms of like words. So I wanted to put like this word in the center, the most intentional words, like the first, the center, and the last one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like this very much is like to me kind of like a Rorschach test kind of thing, where it's like pick a block, look at the words and the colors, how what is it supposed to mean to you? What do you think it's supposed to mean? So you say that they each individually like stand as kind of, they should like stand alone and tell like their own story, but is there also like a
Yes.
connected story between all tied between the 72?
Yeah, exactly. And like all of them have the same number of words. So I did
I was actually
nine
going to ask about
pieces
that.
of the,
Because
yeah.
numbers, so the third block, number 24 and number 64, number 24 has 7 words in it, and number 64 has 9 words in it. Or because
Oh, really?
yeah, I tried actually taking time to count to see if there's any like weird stuff going on.
Oh, I missed that then. But they were supposed to have the same number of words.
Okay, so there was a surprise even for the creator.
Yeah, there is a surprise for me in there.
So, do are any of these blocks like specifically or are like especially meaningful to you? Do you think?
I think all of them. I think pursue disappearance, like the last sentence, the last two words are meaningful in a way that we do that just by living, like
Mm-hmm.
we are pursuing our own disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the whole piece is a bit dark for me, but at the same time it's like, okay, this is just how things are.
Mm-hmm.
We are here, we should do things and we should like pursue them.
Yeah. After disappearance, also, it's got the only punctuation in the entire thing. Was this
Yeah,
uh-huh? Any reason you went
also
with a semicolon?
intentional. Yeah, also intentional, also like uh I don't know, at this point I really needed a pause and I didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was about that pause, like I really need a pause and I still do. So it's like, what else is the pause that you need besides death, besides grief, besides what is after
Mm-hmm.
your existence?
Yeah, just kind of like fading away from a thing from whatever is like currently happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like it is very like it isolates every like with each word it kind of like isolates the the meaning of it at like a single point in time, but then like you group certain ones that are grouped together like in this number 48 where it's like there's clearly steps that you're supposed to be taking, and then you take that
Mm-hmm.
breath and then you get sensory deprivation.
Yeah, and also in the way that you read them. So some of them, like they have a rhythm inside of them. So if they're closer, then you are going to read them like faster. Then you're going to take a break to read the next one. Then you're going to take a break to read the next block.
Hmm.
So there is also an intentionality behind how I put the words together
Hmm.
and like the spaces between them.
What did you
I
say
don't know
again?
if this is
Sorry, go on.
no, I don't know if people can notice like the intention behind how I put the words, but like that was what I wanted.
Hmm. I was gonna ask, like, so you mentioned earlier the inspiration behind this, the idea. Can you talk about a little bit about that again?
Yeah, so 72 letters is a short story by Ted Chiang,
Hmm.
a science fiction writer, and I really enjoy his short stories. I think they are concise, they are like very short, and they make sense as a whole. So I love that. And he's a writer that brings many topics in his writing, like life, um, language, um, the divinity behind everything.
Hmm.
And his short stories, like, so this one in particular is about the golem, which is a in this short story, the golem is a piece of like mass,
Hmm.
and then you can program the golem to do things.
Yeah, programmed a homunculus.
Yes, exactly. You have to program it, and it's going to walk. It's going to do different actions depending on what is the combination of words that you're going to use.
Hmm.
So this short story is like very related to the golem by Borges, which is the same idea of the homunculus
Hmm.
that you program. And that other piece is also about the creation of life and the creation of life with words. And I think these two writers, they made it in a very interesting way, very different, but also in a very interesting way, how they use their words to create new worlds. So yeah, my inspiration was to use the number, and it's a number that I will like to continue using
Hmm.
in like future works, so they can all be related in a way that is like meaningful to me.
Hmm. So I also remember, like while we were still doing like the writing process, that the words were like arranged in different configurations. The colors of each tile were also kind of different. How did you do like your revision process? How did you was it just kind of like, this is kind of what I'm feeling. This is what makes more sense right now.
Yeah, I think what I had before in terms of color was like a background. It wasn't intentional.
Hmm.
So in making it as each tile, I think it what I wanted was to amplify the idea behind each tile.
Hmm.
So how did I do that? Like to move the words and then like adapt them to the shapes that they had. That was my idea in general. I don't
Hmm.
know, I'm very critical of my own work as well.
I
So
mean,
I think
everybody
it
kind of
should be,
is.
yeah. So I think it could be done better, and I hope to make it like in a more meaningful way in the future works that I'm going to do, that I hope to do.
Hmm.
Hopefully in the scene too.
Yeah, so this was actually one of, I think this was the first piece that actually sold on Zora. Have you gotten to talk at all
Yeah.
with the buyer?
I sent him a DM to
Uh
say like, "Hey, thank you," but yeah, I have no idea how did he find out or anything.
huh.
But I was very surprised. There were two beats. The other one is an artist that I admire, and he also has like a collection of works.
Hmm.
And I have been working with him in the past, like making a few designs, websites, like a few things. So yeah, it was great to see that. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, and yeah, I'm very glad that
Yeah,
happened.
I I think it like really like embraces the whole nonsense thing, because the whole thing of like words individually don't really mean anything. like every single tile, you actually have to put a piece of yourself in to try to make sense of all of these different things. A lot of them are very like action oriented or sensory oriented, but like independently, they kind of don't mean things unless you try to you have to try to make up your own story.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think some of like these words mean one thing to me, and for other people they're going to mean something different, and they're going to reflect on different topics depending on their lives, like their own universes.
Hmm.
So that's something that I enjoy about art in general, about words in general, is that you always bring your own universe into the work that you're seeing.
Hmm. Yeah. Also, I learned the word alterate because I thought that was a typo, but alterate is actually a word.
Yeah, because I'm a Spanish speaker, I usually use words that make sense in Spanish, like
Hmm.
translated. So yeah, alterados, that's the word in Spanish.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be alternate, but the fact that it's alterate, it means to actually actively alter something, which
Yeah.
as a native English speaker, it baffles me that I'm still like learning individual words like this.
It's a never ending learning process.
Hmm. I think another thing that kind of jumps out at me, moment of peace in the bottom left. The
Hmm.
fact that of is one of these 72 words, and generally speaking, it's not one that, it's a word that depends on other words next to it to have more meaning.
Yeah.
So it kind of directs my attention, like what was this like moment of peace?
I think I had another word, but I wanted to have a moment of peace. I have moment and I had peace, and I had another word that I don't remember now.
Hmm.
Change it into this one. So this is a decision that I had to make in punctuation, and if I wanted to add like this kind of word like of or the or
Hmm.
and I decided to add this one because I think it was like this space and the shape made sense to have the moment of peace there.
Hmm.
So that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't want it to change as many words because I think it stops making sense, which is the topic, but I didn't want it that uh it stopped making sense if I change everything like all the time.
Hmm. So you said you like with everything, all of these being deliberate, like because my question was how much of this was like randomized, and the fact that so much of it is actually deliberate. It just because recently I've also been like kind of around GANs, like the
Hmm.
on the homepage, like all of these are like generationally created, and I think this question with like a lot of these generationally crap, I can't remember what GAN stands for. Like all of these are,
Artificial networks.
yeah, with all of these being kind of like you punch in a bunch of words and then an algorithm kind of creates some sort of art based on what all these words pull out from the internet, from the neural networks that it interacts with.
Hmm.
Just kind of like, what's your sense of, I guess, like the state of art with, you know, this, which is actually kind of randomized, though there is a little bit of deliberacy, like versus like yours, which you kind of, this all reflects you and your active decision.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well as I was doing the piece, and I think they are both valid options. They are both interesting results with that.
Hmm.
So I would like to put these into another thing and see what comes up because something interesting may come up.
Hmm.
Uh, but maybe like old school in this sense. Like in a moment, I wanted to print all the words and make it like a physical collage. So I'm very into the physical things. So right now, like another, like the journey that I'm finishing right now, it's like physical drawings, and I would like to use the technology to, like, in another sense, to enhance what I did with my hands.
Hmm.
Not that technology is not made with your hands, it's also, but I think it will be like another layer of things. So for me, at least, it will be like of physical things and then another layer of technology and things
Hmm.
on top.
So it's just like adding extra brushes to your art kit.
I think so, yes.
Nice. Awesome. So you mentioned a couple different pieces that you thought were particularly interesting. So you listed tunnels, Vogue blindness, and perfectly normal. Which one do you think you'd want to kind of like conjecture about, knowing that we don't have the artist with us right now?
I don't know. Let's choose one randomly.
Let's see which pops up here.
Page and the first one that comes up.
Yeah, perfectly normal. Yeah, this is a fun thing with
Okay,
like
that's
with the homepage, just because it's it randomizes all of the pieces at once. So what did you think about it? Why did this one jump out at you?
well, this one was uncomfortable to watch. So I
Yeah.
think that's, in the terms of nonsense, it's very interesting to have something that you want to stop watching. So I stopped in the middle and then I had to continue, and it was like, okay, this is something that makes me feel something.
Hmm.
Like, this is a piece that makes me feel, that makes me think, that makes me reflect about what is going on. This is not like another video that I'm going to consume without paying attention, that I do usually. So this is something that really demands for your attention,
Yeah.
and that's interesting in terms of like how many things do we see on the internet and then like move on. Like, this is something that makes you feel.
It's a surprisingly like violent thing to watch. Like not it
Yeah.
doesn't display violence, but it like the way it kind of makes you feel like violently uncomfortable, just like visually, auditorily.
Yeah.
I think
And
that
also, like, I feel very connected to the topic. I
uh-huh.
think, uh yeah, like some of these things were maybe more uncomfortable for me, and it's not something like, it's something that I felt before. So yeah, it's related also in like another way.
Hmm. Yeah, this is the it's very different, but it's like it's similar compositionally to like from the first issue where it took you to another website and it kind of like
Hmm.
drags you along this different conspiratorial route. Where, hey, what should I be doing here? And this one just let's fuck with your senses. You're becoming part of the art.
Yeah, and what I loved about this nonsense as a topic is that everyone did a different interpretation.
Hmm.
So Vogue blindness, that is the other one. I also found that like very interesting because so you have something that is very serious, but at the same time is completely fictional, and you have something that is trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So it's another form of like another interpretation that it's interesting to see.
Yeah, this one
Like all of them really.
it kind of reminded me of like Bird Box with a
Yes.
yeah. It's just like weird, chthonic, the like Lovecraftian. Why are people doing this? What's causing them? Like you can't conceive it. There are people who've tried to describe it, but they can't. Uh, and
Yeah.
and like just like the brief description of it. Page 32 depicts a man and woman in what appears to be a tropical islet environment. Pair standing on a low rock that juts into a shallow coral reef, standing an estimated 2 meters above the waterline. On the surface of the
Yeah,
rock
I
behind the pair.
really love the details. Like
It's so
100
plain.
and
It's so
yeah,
plain,
it's
but then
like
you
the
somehow go
details.
blind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe that was also intentional, like describing everything so detailed. Maybe that's also intentional into like if you're blind, maybe you're not going to see all of these cues, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's done by Everett. He also made the piece for Zine #1. He did bugs in the system. I really like a lot of like the way he writes. Like this, it's very much this is like a news. This is an informative news cautionary,
Yeah.
cautionary like public service announcement. Like don't look at this page,
Yeah,
you'll go blind, and then people look it up.
and it reminds me of Ted Chiang as well. Ted Chiang has also a similar style of writing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one I really like this one as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. A little creepy,
Yeah.
especially with like Vogue being such a like a name brand, a household brand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Laura, thank you for your time. Laura's piece,
Thank you
seventy
for
two
having me.
words. 72 words. It's I don't know if it's going to be listed again on Zora, but I highly recommend checking it out on zine.mochi.club. Laura, thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
I look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing.
And I will see you. Yeah, we'll see you next edition.
Yeah, awesome. All right,
Okay.
with Neesh, Manisha Sharari. Of which batch were you?
Batch 3.
Batch 3. Awesome. So same as Laura Sinisterra, who was previously on, and you go by on your online persona is losing my ego.
Yes, online I am fully losing my ego under a pseudonym, so nobody knows who I am.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about what's up with that?
Mostly, it's like almost so simple the way that it came about. The name "Losing My Ego" itself had nothing to do with like the way I attach it to my identity now. It was always just a philosophical blip I thought of to use as my username. But as a photographer on Instagram for years, I was assumed to be a boy by so many people in my audience because I never showed myself. And so I just kind of used it as a way to troll on people and to just never really like tell people who I was. And it just kind of continued into like all other aspects of my online identity.
Interesting. And then did like was there some sort of like big reveal, like 10K
Yeah.
subscribers, face reveal, surprise, no dick.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just like a picture somebody took of me like flipping my middle finger, and it was like, "Here's to all of you that think I'm a boy," something like that. It was great.
And then subscriber count dropped before it started going back up again, or how?
Yeah, definitely. You know how it goes.
Yeah. All right. So you created a multimedia piece for Nonsense. You jumped in pretty early on into the creation process for this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Your
That's
piece
funny.
is perfectly normal.
Yes.
What is your approach to nonsense? What is how did you kind of conceptualize this piece?
Yeah, it was interesting. Okay, so when I got introduced by Gabe to the zine and like thinking about maybe making a piece, I think you and I had a conversation because you wanted to see if I understood the theme and everything. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's talk about that. And I had already thought about creating some kind of experience for the user, like immediately about touching their sensitivities through sound and light. Just always kind of thinking in like some kind of video format anyway. And after I spoke with you, you sent me links on ARGs, which was interesting because I had never really looked into those. And so I watched like 2 of the links that you had sent me, and just from like understanding how ARGs work and like the way that they're like played online, it made me think about a participatory experience, which I didn't fully get to carry out, but it was also like the backbone of like why I created the video the way I did. Because after watching the ARGs, I was like, I want to create maybe a text responder, auto text responder, where somebody can be interacting with the auto text responder while they're watching this video, and I can somehow gauge how people are feeling while they have an experience. So that's like where it started. I knew I wanted to be more of an experience than something to watch. And so from there, the video got built to be something for you to react to
Hmm.
for the most part.
So have you created so you're a photographer for Instagram. Is this like your kind of your first venture into like video production stuff for an art piece?
So I started working in film and video about 2, 3 years ago,
Hmm.
and maybe taking it more seriously in the last 2 years. But I've never really gone into the experimental video world. I've been working in commercial like film and things like that, and doing
Hmm.
like directing for like little commercials. But it's something that the reason all this started is because I spoke to another Mochi member, Gabe, about an experimental video piece I had dropped. It was the first one. And from there, he said, our zine, we're doing something I think you could make a piece for in this style. And so this was only the second experimental video I'd ever made.
Hmm.
And it's something that I'm finding is like a really great way for me to express certain things that I'm trying to express without the use of like actual subjects.
Hmm.
And so it's new for me, but actually like ever since creating this piece for the zine, I've kind of like gone on a huge tangent, and that's like all I'm doing now is like experimental videos
Oh,
for the
dope.
time being. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You got a thing you want to
Yeah.
plug just real fast?
Yeah, I'm about to drop a couple NFT series.
Ooh-wee. This is one of the ones that also sold currently from this issue, if not mistaken,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
Ooh.
that was actually like really cool because I just like we're all in the NFT world in some way, but it just didn't like fully like occur to me that like we are going to be creating these pieces and they're going to be listed as NFTs and just so on and so forth. I just didn't really like see out the whole process in my head. So when we were like, oh yeah, guys, we're listing them, I was like, wait, oh shit, is that my first NFT? That was like really awesome. I was like, this is such low barrier of entry. Sometimes you make things seem so much like harder
Hmm.
than they are, but that was cool.
Well, I mean, it went
It was
well,
awesome.
so.
Yeah, it went well. It was cool.
So this is it's a visual audio sensory piece that's kind of supposed to be simulating like hypersensitivity.
Hmm.
And like it's meant to kind of simulate like a hypersensitive episode from like the perspective of somebody who is autistic.
Yes. That's pretty much spot on. And it came because I have a nephew who is autistic.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't originally the path I was going to take, but as I was researching like sound structures and light like patterns that can send you into kind of like sensitive situations just as a viewer. At some point in my research, it occurred to me that like I knew somebody in real life who experienced this in a way. Like my mind fell on my nephew. When I was younger, I used to nanny him when he was a child.
Mm.
And so that was like a really crazy experience before the family really knew that, like before he was diagnosed, to experience what like he was going through and to see it at such a raw level. It's something that's always stayed with me. So I think for me, it made sense that like at some point researching sensitivity in a way that my mind went to him.
Hmm.
And then I kind of built this based off of thinking about him um, for the most part.
And so, what kind of stuff did you do for research and kind of crafting the different scenes that happen in this?
Yeah, I started with sound research more because I'm so much more familiar with like um, the video clip aspect of it.
Hmm.
Uh, but so for sound, I was just like, well, how do I want to make a soundscape? Because it's not something I used to produce music in my 20s, or in my like early 20s. And so it was something I'm familiar with, but I've never really like done full on. So it was more like, what kind of sounds affect people? And my head went to like, there was a time during the protests last summer where there was this machine that got brought out in Richmond, Virginia, where it was like a sonic boom machine. And I remember somebody saying to me that if they actually use that on us, it creates a sound that is at a certain like level that will make us like shit ourselves or something crazy.
Mm.
And so I remember
I
my
think I heard
mind
about
going
that
there and
too.
going, yeah, I was standing right in front of that thing. It was scary. But yeah, so I think my mind went there, and so I was like, okay, what kind of sounds actually affect people? Maybe not to that extent, but just
Hmm.
in general. Can you manipulate somebody over video, like through like an internet kind of like viewing situation? Like, is that enough to actually like make somebody? And there are different like sound ranges that you can affect people through. However, you lose people when like
So,
it gets high enough
So
you lose some age ranges when it gets low enough.
the starting premise is, can I make people shit themselves over the internet?
That is where it started. But like then it went, okay, maybe not shit, but maybe like really squirm and start itching themselves. Like
Oh yeah,
really like
it
have
is.
some kind of experience.
It is kind of
Like
freaky. I don't know if I can lower the volume in this, but like I'll play like a brief like the beginning of it.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
It does like really start off as kind of like an Art Nouveau kind of thing.
Yeah. You know, it seems a bit more Wes Anderson-ish in the beginning. You're like, oh, okay, like this is abstract, and then it's like, what the fuck? I just got attacked.
Yeah,
What is that?
it honestly reminds me of like dreams that I used to have kind of as a kid, where like I would like stare into a closet and then just like these colors would start like blowing up in my face. I don't think I did any drugs, but
Tell
I'm
me
not.
about these dreams.
Yeah, I'm not ruling it out where it, sounds and sights just got like really intense and things just like started exploding. I don't know if I was having some sort of reaction or something, but I mean,
Whoa. Have you ever experienced synesthesia?
yes, I was anesthetized
Ah.
when I think I was in middle school. I had a appendectomy and I went
Oh,
under.
I just wonder. Do you remember if you ever like felt or saw anything during that time period?
No, I just remember like the beforehand. So the surgeon was like the dad of one of my classmates at the time. Um, and he said like while I was being put out, like, oh, if you can count down from 10, if you get to 1, I'll give you $10,000. And I'm like, oh, motherfucker, 10, 9, 8, 7.
That's awesome.
Yeah, apparently it's a pretty like regular gag they'll pull on kids.
That's so
Oh,
up
it was
to a kid,
also
$10,000 is like,
it was also kind of crazy because I at that time I was also pretty religious, and so I went through last rites, which is like one of the sacraments that Christians do, like when either after they've been committed to death or if they think they're going to die. And so as a kid, I was given last rites by a priest before a surgery. So I was really reassuring.
honestly, that is wild. Oh my God. You make me want to like write a short on that. Like a child who is so fervent in his religion that he makes sure his like last rites get read before he goes under. For like I'm not saying your surgery was simple, if it was for like some kind of like hilariously like simple surgery,
Oh,
like a
it's like
root
removing a
canal.
wisdom tooth or something.
Yeah. That's actually like really good fodder for a short story. That's crazy.
So with creating this, how did you make it? I see you've got like a pretty nice camera in the background. Um,
Oh, yeah, the camera.
yeah.
Yeah. So there were, I'm not going to say which clips. There are 2 clips I shot, and the rest were all stock footage,
Mm,
which was like a crazy thing. So I realized there's like an art form in finding stock footage, like in specific kinds, and making them like work for you.
mhm.
Um, and so that was the process there. And like, I wonder, if we like had like, if it was like a 6-month like project, if I had gone in, if I would have shot things more in person, because some of the stock footage worked so perfectly in the ways they might have already been distorted
Hmm.
in some ways that it was better maybe than me even shooting it myself for this specific project. So but yeah, and then all the sound. So I just have a sound bank that I have access to um, online, and so I built all the sound myself from finding different clips and just layering them. And some of them like just have like a very small like distortion on them, but all of them for the most part are just in their natural like sound that I found them
Hmm.
with like different audio levels. And just yeah, pieced it all together. Editing this was and I think I mentioned this once before in one of our zine meetings, but editing this was like absolute chaos
Uh-huh.
because like you're just like because when you're editing you're in loops, and especially for like any part of this video that has like very fast cuts, like those are cuts that are like one literally one frame or two frames each. So you have to get in on a granular level,
Mm-hmm.
and you watch them in a loop to make sure that it's okay. So like
And how long
sometimes
is
my
for that?
eyes would just be like flickering.
A middle. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine this is a nightmare to like take the time to stare at for extended periods of time.
Yeah. But it's also like it's like torture in a way. It's like getting a tattoo or something like that. That's the way it felt.
What was kind of like your editing process like, and I guess like your storyboarding for this, like did you have somebody that you kind of like bounce this off of, like does this like reflect your
Yeah.
experiences, or what was kind of your
I
editorial process
think
for that?
it's a good question. I think in the beginning, a lot of it had to do with what I was able to find stock wise for what I thought could work. And as I was searching where I was searching, like I started to kind of storyboard while searching. And because the shots that I took didn't come till after I had the whole story kind of set up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really more just about, I kept seeing that it was easy to access a lot of variations of home, like mundane home style footage, things around you as an everyday object that a lot of humans interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Like as you can see, everything here is like an appliance or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where my head started to go. It was just like, I have more access to this kind of footage while I'm searching these like footage banks. So that's what I'm going to kind of look for. And so from there, the story of somebody going around their house. And then it was like, oh, this is how I can relate to the audience. People have utilized most of the different objects that are in this video in some way or another. So it was easy for me to now have a way to talk to the audience without having to explain, one, the situation of the story and also like the objects in the story. So now they already resonate with the objects.
Mm-hmm.
And as a storyteller, it makes my job easier because there's less for them to understand up front.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the thinking. But I did speak to Wei Li when Wei Li and I had a talk. He had just kind of looked at my piece and was giving me some editorial notes. And there was a discussion. It was suggested to like think about maybe making it somebody's day. So maybe the alarm clock is in the morning, like they're waking up, and maybe it would be a different way to show it, where it was like how they would do these things throughout their day. What's like the chore you would likely do after breakfast and things like that. And so that is something I was curious to kind of build towards, but it was like just a time constraint. I thought that was a good idea.
Honestly, I kind of felt bad for a lot of the editors for this this issue, just because the theme is just so kind of like
they're just in their heads, just like they were probably like, "Wow," like
dude underwater.
Yeah, that's
who is this friend? Stock footage.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah. Underwater is a homie. It was like actually it was really easy. It was just like one take. It's just like, can you just close your eyes and lay there for a little bit? And that was it. It was a friend that lives in Bushwick.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's it.
Have you done any research like in terms of the hypersensitivity thing? Like ways that people that like if you aren't necessarily on the autism spectrum, like how, because like I think I had experienced something similar to this like in a dream. If there are like similar states that people get into, or if there are ways to like induce like this kind of state of hypersensitivity.
Oh, I don't know if I like really encountered that visually. Like in my research, like sonically, it's I think easier to induce somebody into a state like this because excuse me, like what I researched, like when I was researching visually, it was easy to find ways to put people into like hypnotic kind of like places, or like repetitive patterns that would make people feel like they were tripping. That's an easy thing to simulate with editing. But with sonically, like in real life too, like it is easier to trigger somebody with sound because of the fact that like the ranges of sound that all of us are comfortable with is actually smaller than you might think. So like it's very easy for somebody to start feeling irritated from a sound that's pitched just a little too high. Or if a sound is pitched just a bit lower, it's not going to maybe annoy you the way a high pitched sound would, but it will like, it'll trouble you. Like when you hear a low bass, you feel like there's something wrong. There's something you should look out for.
Mhm.
So it still makes you feel uneasy.
Oh,
But
I've definitely seen like a lot of these
yeah.
YouTube videos where it's like it's a music video for a song that everybody's familiar with, everybody knows, but it's just like tone shifted by like one half step, and it's just like the worst feeling.
Yeah, like it just makes you feel bad, which is crazy. But I mean, they use all this like sound tactics for torture that we've heard of, you know. So like, I think that's like the easiest sense to maybe relate to somebody in this, like a hypersensitive being in this sense, like which is why I realized that early on. It was like I have to do something with sound here. It can't just be audio. It won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely look forward to anything else that you got coming out. So if you want to sneak preview any of that stuff, feel free to send it my way.
Oh, I totally will.
In terms of other zine pieces that you found interesting, you mentioned to me NDE tunnels.
Yeah.
It's the one Gabe did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think this one I can change the audio levels. You said you also recently had a near-death experience? NDE, near-death experience for anybody?
It wasn't recently. It was, oh shit, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's like it put me into such a crazy mindset after the fact. God, that shit was crazy.
Far away. What the fuck does Michelle Obama know about mochi?
I really like
Will
the
be
timer
helpful
on it
in
too.
terms of the next
It goes
situation.
down and it goes back up. And...
All the components.
Yeah, it's like a countdown to
all the
death or
natures of my
something.
work
Like
has
it's
changed.
an interesting
The pandemic
choice.
has consolidated tech bunnies playing catch. It's so good that I have nothing bad to say about it.
Oopsie poopsie.
Right back up.
Yeah, I actually haven't taken the time to see whether or not there's any like connection between a lot of the like the different things that are popping up on the screen, like in the middle, because it goes through.
Oh, the blinds.
Yeah, because it goes through like 3 different sequences of it, and they seem all very disconnected.
Yeah. I think like it's interesting with notebooks like that, how, and this feels so much like so human of such an AI builder that it almost like the words that it seems that like got fed into it, like they evoke like the feeling of them more than anything visually, which is like how is a computer like relaying like the way I feel about these like, you know, short blurbs more than like maybe I would even be able to make. It's crazy.
Yeah, I haven't actually taken a look at anything at like the notebook stuff for it. I have been playing around with GANs this like last few months. Not playing around with more just kind of around people who do more with it. So Gabe definitely does a lot more of like the machine learning stuff. I did a podcast with Parag Mittal. I don't know if you've met him, but he does a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, he does a lot of crazy shit with machine learning and computational art.
I need to talk to him. Yeah, I only started getting into GANs recently. Maybe when like the zine, when we started creating for the zine, and I think there's definitely a lot to discover there. Gabe was like a good influence, sharing his process while he was working on these videos. That was a really cool thing to see. A lot of Mochi people are into GANs. I was actually surprised to learn in the last few months. Yeah.
I think a lot of like the crypto space is interested in like what can technology add to our lives that we aren't necessarily, you know, trying to do just like based on the way we've kind of learned how to do things. Because GANs,
yeah, that's funny.
It's functionally just like a new. I've mentioned this to a couple people. It's a new paintbrush in your art set that you've never been taught to use before, and you kind of have to learn as an adult.
I like that analogy. That's really good, actually. Yeah, it's just another tool, right? Like, I find it so interesting because I'm so obsessed with like the idea of like digital creation, but I'm also like very much in the analog world. Like, I still only shoot on film. and or for the most part, like obviously the piece that was digital, but like a lot of the work I do is like only ever on film, and that's for video and for photography. And so I'm trying to find a way to bridge analog medium into like digital like sequencing and digital algorithms and stuff like that, which is like if we were talking about GANs, like imagine trying to build a library of analog footage and then being able to use it. Like that would be cool.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Versus like,
I have no idea how
that's
it
the
would
kind
be
of stuff
done.
I want to do.
That's something you could talk to Parag about, because he's all about like getting all of the real world into the digital space.
Really? Oh, same. That's somebody called it Phygital at Art Basel, and I was like, I haven't heard that one yet.
Phygital? What's that
That's
referred
good.
to?
Like PHIGITAL.
I'm not sure what the PHIG would refer to.
Physical.
Oh.
Physical and digital together.
Ah. Gotcha. Digital.
I don't like it, but it's a good word. A lot of people use metaphysical, but I think like phygital and metaphysical are like the same thing in the way people use it.
Yeah, and then if you want to put your nuts on the internet, it'd be digital or something.
Dude.
Your digicals.
Yeah, exactly. But that's cool. I actually think I need to have a chat with Parag. Yes.
Yeah, do it. All right. So Neesh, also known as Losing My Ego, you got Losing My Ego .xyz here. Well, where else are you gonna be putting stuff up?
I think on my site right now is like an under construction thing, but that'll have a lot of work there. And then I think a lot of my stuff is gonna go on Zora. So have you heard of Artiva? It's essentially you can build your own marketplace, but it's built on Zora's
I know Zora has like their
technology.
I know Zora's got their auction houses. Like I know that they've got the CryptoPunks art house where you can list it, and it reduces a lot of the listing fees and stuff. But I have not heard of Artiva.
Artiva is really cool. Yeah, I think it's something that everybody could utilize. It's essentially like,
how do you spell that?
Maybe it's Artiva. It might be Artiva. They're very hard to find for some reason.
Yeah, that's the problem right now with all these new companies.
Yeah, it's really funny. But it is maybe Artiva.app, Artiva.io. I'm going to find it for you right now. Yeah, Artiva.app. That's the one.
So you're creating a digital platform?
Marketplace. Yeah. It's really cool. And it's built in Zora protocol, so it shows up there. But like I think it'll be a really good place to kind of host like whatever online or NFT projects I'm dropping, which are a lot of the things where they're going to get dropped in that way. And so you get to have a hub for any artist. It's like you get to have a hub versus pointing people directly to other marketplaces. It doesn't mean that you have any more control than you would if you were just listing on Zora, but I think just the start of having one place for people to see your work is nice. In your own, because you get to style these pages. Oh, look who it is. This is one of the many Mats. He is a Mochi member.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
cool.
That's awesome.
An accidental
so he's got an Artiva page. That's awesome. Yeah, so it's great because like I had a conversation with the guys who run it or who like help run it, and they're willing to help people customize like their marketplaces as much as they like to. And so I want to kind of just create a mini experience for people. Oh, there you go. Another person.
Urbit.
Halik. Yeah, Halik and Urbit, I guess. So yeah, like look, it looks like Mochi's already using this. So this is where I plan on using.
Dope.
Yeah, so big hub in that place.
Cool. Well, I also hope that you continue to create stuff for the zine in the future issues.
I definitely plan on it. Have we found out our new theme yet?
We haven't determined it, and I think that's still technically up for like vote, and whoever decides to volunteer as tribute, I suppose.
Oh, we can like suggest categories.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
right, Neesh, thank you for coming on. Thank you for creating this piece for the zine. You can
Thanks,
check it out.
Robin.
You can check it out on the zine.mochi.club, or you can check it out on Zora. It's been sold. Maybe somebody will resell it. Keep an eye out for her new stuff coming out on Artiva if whenever it comes out, or on Zora, right?
Yep.
Dope. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So right now I have Simon Aksenfeld, who's he made the zine piece for Anne. Simon, thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you.
Did I say your right name? Did I say your last name right? I keep thinking it's either Aksenfeld or Askenfeld.
It's always misinterpreted as Aksenfeld, but it's Aksenfeld.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So your piece is the only song that we put for issue 2, and you also jumped in pretty late. Can you tell me about how that happened?
Late for me? You mean submitting the zine piece?
Yeah, just I guess it's still the production process.
I don't know when it actually started, but I think that it took me. Yeah, I think that I remember there was a due date for when I was supposed to submit it, and I think I submitted it just a couple of days before, just because I think at that time I had a couple things on my plate, and on top of that it took me I don't know, maybe 3 times of re-recording the set to make it the way that I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember actually, you know what? No, now that because I did this a little while ago, so it's all gonna come back to me little by little. But I remember the first conversation that I had with Gabe actually about this piece. It was not easy for me to grasp the idea of what was
the theming and the topic.
The theme, the topic, and exactly what, whether I was able to project that through a set of mine, because a lot of the times whenever I record things, they're always not necessarily mindless, but they're very it comes naturally to me, and the concept of
nonsense.
There was a particular nonsense. It was not something that came easily to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that I had to have multiple conversations with Gabe, and multiple also sit downs with myself and my records to try and understand what I'm able to create with that concept in mind.
Mm-hmm. So the title for Anne, is a person, I imagine.
Yeah. It's somebody. It's a little bit more. To be completely honest, for Anne was a title that was created by Gabe, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Does it relate to something from based on the tracks that you decided to play, the theme?
So the title is probably the one thing that I'm not able to speak on, only because Gabe was actually the one that I think created the title for it, whereas I didn't even think to when I submitted it. I didn't even think to create the title for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that he picked the name Anne, because Anne does have a special connection to me. But I don't think that
It's whatever.
he created that title. No.
Oh, interesting. Well, then it's I guess it has its own sense that you kind of pulled out on your own too. So
yeah.
Cool. So are you a DJ also? So you told me you work at a record store?
Correct. Yeah. I work at a record shop called A1 Records in the East Village. It is probably one of the more known record shops in the world. Definitely made a name for themselves in the last 25 years that they've been open.
Mm-hmm.
I started over here just a year ago, and I am a DJ as well. I've been DJing for I don't know, maybe the last 10 years, give or take.
Gotcha. So right now, the part that listening to is it's like it doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, you can't. For anybody who's listening to the podcast, he can't actually hear this because we're on Google Meet. And this thing is, it's so we're still in, I think, the first track.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I think that's if I'm not mistaken, that might actually be a record by Moody Man. If that's the first record, I remember that. I think Moody Man is always somebody that kind of allows for a warm entrance and really sets a particular type of tone for any kind of set that I would do. I think he really heavily uses MPCs and his records are very loopy and kind of tranquil in their own way. But they definitely have like Moody Man records have a very particular tone that just like whenever you hear, I think, Louis Armstrong or like Ella Fitzgerald, and you're like, oh, that's Louis. Probably in the same way I kind of feel
really
about
iconic
Moody Man records where you're like, oh, like that's a Moody Man record. Like nobody else really sounds, I think, like him, even though there is a lot of music done in the same type of format. There's just nobody really that does it like him. And I feel like the vocals on that record also are kind of a great representation of
this style.
What I was feeling starting this out, where I'm very rebellious to many things as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I really don't know much about like music stuff. So like both in regards to the set that you played for the zine piece and just like anything I guess related to that, feel free to just like splurge. Tell me any timestamps you want me to jump to.
Well, I know that after that Moody Man record, I remember that I definitely played something that definitely had a level of like tranquility in it, letting you know that I jotted down some notes. So I remember that it had a certain level of tranquility to it, letting you know that the ride was going to get a little bit more bumpy, that it wasn't always going to be this fluid, like that Moody Man record was prior to. I remember that one of the important things to me that came to mind whenever I was thinking about nonsense was inconsistency. And I think that instead of taking somebody on a musical ride of just like whether it be a steep uphill or the other way around, or
just a big drop,
just like a consistency in energy levels. I personally like to play in a way where things are a little bit all over the map, and just allowing for different energies to come into play at any given time, during whether it be a set or whether I'm playing out at a club. So during your night,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have like a? All right, sorry, go on.
No. I was just gonna continue on to maybe about the 25 minute mark where things do start to get a little bit more rocky, and you do start to lose control a little bit more, getting a little bit more antsy, and the feelings of wilderness really start to seep in. So I really like records that allow for you to kind of forget about the concept of time and reality. And
it's like trance music.
No, I mean I definitely I'm not opposed. You know what? It's funny because trance is something that I've like jumped back and forth with throughout my life. Like I started out actually listening to trance many years ago, and that somehow after I gained a deeper kind of connection with other various types of dance music, trance was kind of out of the picture, and it wasn't something that really moved me anymore. But lately I've actually been finding a lot of very interesting kind of transy records that are on the borderline of like breakbeat and like drum and bassy kind of things that also really pique my interest, but it's not much. And a lot of the music that I listen to is definitely not as I want to say cosmic, but cosmic is not the right word. Transy is a very
cerebral, celestial.
It is a very celestial state of being, and I definitely do not want to feel. I definitely don't want to feel that in a lot of my records. I feel like that definitely tends to get kind of old for me pretty quickly.
Generally speaking, do you kind of go for when you're playing sets? Do you kind of go for like along with the feeling that the music is kind of carrying into you with this, as the set progresses? Like, is there also like attempted visuals in terms of like kind of imagery that you want a person to think of while they're like listening? Like right now they're in the field, or right now they're in the battlefield.
You know, I think that one of the most beautiful things about any type of music is that it's always up to the person that's listening, their interpretation. So even though there might be times where I want to project something onto someone, it's not like, this is the way that it has to be, and this is what you're going to visualize. It would be interesting to do a project where there was a visual concept with a musical concept, but it's not something that I've ever done yet. A lot of the times whenever I play records, I always just imagine that people are on the same wavelength as I am. Kind of envisioning the same things or visualizing the same things that I am as I play. But
imagine that's the hope for everybody, every performer.
Yeah. So I would much rather everybody leave with their own personal experience, and as opposed to trying to
force somebody
drill,
to
force people to feel things that they don't necessarily naturally feel.
Let's do another jump.
Sure. I remember that as things kind of progressed, I remember that at the 32-minute mark, I definitely played something a little bit more kind of lush with an instrumental piano and a heavy flute, which also allowed for people to kind of pull back a little bit and not necessarily and not have to.
It's very like pan-fluted.
Yeah, and it was something that kind of let you breathe for a little while longer. Just knowing that it was always going to be kind of a push and pull, and I don't think. I think that around that 32-minute mark, I think I just want to let people know that it's not going to be like you're not going to be draining your energy away to every record, but I would let you breathe and relax every little bit so that you can kind of keep your pace and have the energy to kind of continue if you happen to also be dancing while you were listening.
How often would you say that like when you do a set, it has like a theme that you're supposed to be kind of trying to embody, or
That's a good question. I don't think that I record things with a. You know what? When I record certain sets, or when I play a certain sets out, a lot of the times the records that I play are just records that I believe people should hear and people should experience. I don't think that they have a theme a lot of the times, just because the records that I play are very much all over the map. They don't really have, a lot of the times they don't really have all that much to do with one another, except for the fact that they're just all different types of dance music. So they all come from very different people, very different influences, different energies that they have, and I think that every one of them is special, and they can be connected without having any consistency to connect them in that way. Like I think that consistency whenever music is played makes things for me very
predictable.
Not interesting at times. Yeah, and very predictable.
So would you say that would you kind of say that like the whole theme of like nonsense also kind of like resonates with this whole idea of, there doesn't need to be a logic to how this needs to come out. It's just how it like decides to come out and just how you decide to feel about it.
For sure. I think that nonsense is just a mixture of highs and lows, and kind of also mysterious things that you didn't know that you were able to feel one after the other so quickly, and not having to just stay in one place or in one lane for the entire kind of journey.
And hopefully, ultimately, it's a pleasant journey.
I would hope so.
Yeah. And then, so in terms of other zine pieces to highlight, you mentioned to me that you really like Can I Hang With Your Ghost?
Yeah, there was a. Can I hang with the ghost? There was one that really touched me. I thought that was definitely. It felt like a memory of like scarring and definitely a lot of raw truth. Somebody with a pure soul and allowing for a toxic connection to get the not allowing for a toxic connection to get the best of them. I thought that the words for that piece were really powerful, and I definitely connected with them quite a lot.
Yeah, I feel like a lot. Oh, sorry, John.
No, and I also really enjoyed the way that the way that it was laid out. I think that it was very unique as well.
Yeah, I'd say this is like it's one of like the few like it's very like straight a poem.
Yeah.
Whereas most for at least for this and the previous zine, most of the writing pieces are prose, and it's always interesting seeing like where you take where themes go once you decide to put them in like a more condensed poetry form where every single word like means a lot more than just like the ums and ofs and uhs.
For sure. And I definitely really liked the fact that there were certain words that were that stood out. Yeah. Yeah, there was. I don't remember who created this piece.
That was Myra.
Myra.
Yeah.
So
and then and then Alyssa did the other one.
Yeah, Myra's a magical human being as is, so that actually did not surprise me.
Dope. Well, Simon, thank you for your time. Thank you for agreeing to come on. The elusive Simon Aksenfeld. Check out his piece, 4N, in Mochi Zine, issue 1, technically issue 2, Nonsense. Simon, thanks again. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye.
Yeah. That's it for today's Mochi Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast and are interested in future releases and videos, like this video and consider subscribing to our channel. If you want to check out any of the pieces featured here or the rest of the issue, check out zine.mochi.club and consider following to be informed of upcoming and future releases. The zine and podcast are all brought to you by Mochi and its community members. I'm Robin, and thanks again for listening.